So good, so good, so good.
Spring styles are at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and they're up to 60% off. Stock up and save on Rag & Bone, Madewell, Vince, All Saints, and more of your favorites.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Why do we rack? For the hottest deals. Just so many good brands.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
It's crunch time at work, and you need to bring wings to your workday. Visit redbull.com/gettingitdone and answer a couple questions about your work style to get a Spotify customized playlist tuned to your productivity. Plus, score a can of Red Bull on us while you go from to-do to done. And remember, Red Bull gives you wings. Supplies are limited. Terms apply. Visit the website for more information.
Welcome back to Supernatural Japan, the podcast where we explore the dark folklore, haunted history, and lingering mysteries hidden across Japan. I'm your host, Kevin O'Shea. Tonight, we travel far beyond the mainland, past the edge of Tokyo, and into the vast Pacific Ocean, to an island that was never meant to be a destination. It was meant to be an ending. A place where emperors were erased, where samurai were cast aside, and where the powerful were sent, not to die, but to be forgotten. But what happens when the forgotten refuse to disappear? This is the story of Hachijōjima, an island of royal exile, and something that may still be watching. Hachijōjima rises out of the Pacific like something out of place. Roughly 300 kilometers south of Tokyo, it sits isolated, surrounded by deep ocean and fast-moving currents. The island is defined by two volcanic peaks, Mount Mihara, and the striking, symmetrical Hachijo Fuji. A dense jungle stretches between them, thick with vegetation that grows fast in the island's humid, subtropical climate. Rain comes suddenly, fog rolls in without warning, and when night falls, the darkness feels heavier than expected. There are no city lights here, no hum of urban life, just wind, ocean, and silence. Even today, with modern transportation, Hachijōjima doesn't feel connected to Japan in the way other places do. It feels separate, and that separation was once intentional. For centuries, Hachijōjima was used as a place of exile, not just for criminals, but for political enemies, disgraced samurai, and members of the elite who had fallen from favor. Exile here wasn't a prison sentence. It was something colder. You were removed from society. Your name faded. Your influence vanished. You continue to live, but in a place where your past no longer mattered. For some, that may have been survivable, but for others, especially those who had once held power, it was unbearable. Because exile doesn't just take your freedom, it takes your identity. Among the most famous figures tied to Hachijōjima is Minamoto no Tametomo. A warrior of immense strength and legendary skill with the bow, Tametomo fought in the Hogan Rebellion and lost. Rather than executing him, his enemies chose a different punishment. They sent him into exile to Hachijōjima. But Tametomo's story doesn't end quietly. According to legend, he did not accept his fate. Some accounts claim he continued to live as a powerful presence on the island, defiant, unbroken. Others suggest his death was violent, unresolved. And in Japanese folklore, that matters, because those who die with unfinished emotion don't always leave. In Japan, the most feared spirits are not random ghosts. They are onryo, vengeful entities formed from intense emotional trauma, anger, betrayal, humiliation, and abandonment. Exile creates all of these conditions. A warrior denied honor, a noble stripped of status, a life cut off from everything that once defined it. On Hachijōjima, these weren't rare cases. They were the norm. Over generations, the island became more than a place of exile. It became a place where powerful emotions were left behind. And according to local belief, those emotions don't simply fade. There is something different about the idea of royal exile. When ordinary people suffer, their stories disappear. But when powerful figures fall, their stories linger. On Hachijōjima, those stories began to evolve into something else. Fishermen spoke of figures standing along the cliffs at dusk, watching the horizon as if waiting for ships that would never return. Locals told of voices carried by the wind near old stone pathways. Low, indistinct, but unmistakably human. And some reported seeing shapes at the edge of the forest line. Still, silent, gone when approached. Whether these are stories, echoes of memory, or something more, the island has a reputation, not for being haunted in a dramatic sense, but for never feeling entirely empty. The feeling intensifies at one of the island's most infamous locations, the Hachijō Royal Hotel. Built in the 1960s, during Japan's economic boom, it was once a symbol of luxury. Grand staircases, ornate interiors, and sweeping ocean views, designed to attract visitors to what was marketed as a tropical paradise. But the boom faded. Tourism declined. The hotel struggled. And eventually, it was abandoned. And now it stands overtaken by jungle, its walls cracked, its halls silent, its rooms slowly being reclaimed by nature. But what draws people here isn't just the decay, it's the atmosphere. Because many who enter say the building doesn't feel empty. Now let's step inside the Hachijō Royal Hotel. You've made your way through the overgrown entrance. It's time to do a little exploring. The air is thick, humid, heavy. Every step echoes louder than it should. You climb the staircase slowly. The railing is rusted. The walls are stained with time. You get to the second floor. Silence. The third floor. The hallway stretches out in front of you. Long, narrow, lined with doorways. Some hang open, others are sealed shut. You take a step forward, then another, and that's when you hear it. A sound behind you. Soft, deliberate. A footstep. You stop. The sound stops. You turn around and no one's there. Just a staircase and darkness below. You tell yourself it's nothing. The building's shifting, your imagination, and you turn back toward the hallway. And this time, you don't move. Because one of the doors ahead of you is no longer in the same position. It's slightly more open than before. Just enough to notice. Just enough to make you question your memory. You stare at it, waiting, listening, and then, from inside the room, a sound. Not loud, not sudden, just a slow, dragging movement. Like something shifting across the floor. You don't investigate, you call out. Because in that moment, when thought becomes very clear, you are not alone. Whatever is inside that room knows you're there. While that scene is dramatized, that's right, I just made it up, it draws heavily on the real experiences reported by visitors and urban explorers. People who have entered the Hachijō Royal Hotel often describe a persistent feeling of being watched. Footsteps echoing with no visible source. Sudden cold pockets in otherwise humid air. Doors that seem to shift and move. And an overwhelming sense of unease that builds the deeper you go. Some explorers cut their visits short. Not because they saw something, but because the atmosphere became too much to ignore. Even outside the hotel, similar experiences are reported near other abandoned structures on the island. And while locals may not openly speak of ghosts, they also don't linger in these places after dark. Hachijōjima has quietly become a destination for Hachijō, urban explorers, drawn to abandoned places. But this island offers something different. Here, abandonment isn't just economic. It's historical, layered, deep. You're not just walking through empty buildings. You're walking through the aftermath of exile, loss, and time. Now, Supernatural Japan listeners, if you go to YouTube and search for Hachijō Royal Hotel, you will find lots and lots of videos. Urban explorers from all around the world come to this site. It's one of the most famous sites in the world for urban exploration. Now, there's so many videos, but I'm going to totally recommend the Yes Theory video. So Yes Theory is a popular YouTube channel based in Sweden, and I have to admit that these are some of my favorite content creators. They are Swedish content creators, and I'm a huge fan of their work. Now, they explore the world in a caring, empathetic, and tasteful way. Their videos are always very tasteful. And there's a link in the show notes to the video that they made where they visited Hachijōjima as well as another almost abandoned island in Japan. And there's lots of photos, of course, of the hotel and the island over on Supernatural Japan's social media.
Introducing Shark Facial Pro Glow, a first of its kind at-home facial. Pro-level extraction removes impurities, and dual temperature technology boosts radiance and deep puffs with both Insta-Heat and Insta-Chill technology. Treat yourself to a hydro-fueled glow in minutes. And because Shark Facial Pro Glow fits in the palm of your hand, you can get that luminous post-spa glow anywhere. Visit sharkbeauty.com to learn more.
Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wrap your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
Hachijōjima is, in many ways, beautiful. Lush, quiet, remote. But beneath that beauty is something harder to define. An island where people were sent to be forgotten, where powerful lives ended in isolation, where stories refused to disappear. From Minamoto no Tametomo to the silent halls of the Hachijō Royal Hotel, the past doesn't feel distant here. It feels present. Not loud, not violent, but persistent, as if the island itself remembers. And maybe it never let them leave. Thanks for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to help the show grow, please leave a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and a rating and a comment on Spotify, or wherever else you listen to us. It really makes a difference. And starting in this episode, I'm going to be reading some of those comments and reviews you fantastic folks have been leaving. Now, of course, follow us on social media, especially Instagram, to see photos of the Hachijōjima, as well as the abandoned Hachijō Royal Hotel. And now you can visit supernaturaljapan.com to see all the social links and our blog featuring stories about spooky Japan and podcast news. There's a contact form on the bottom of the website if you want to get a hold of me, or you can just email me anytime you like at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about your supernatural and weird tales in Japan or anywhere else in the world. Or hey, you can just shoot me an email to say hello. I love to talk to listeners about spooky things and not spooky things. Now, I'm going to start reading a few Spotify comments in upcoming episodes, so please keep those comments coming. Now, the first comment I'm going to read in this episode was from the episode Paranormal Exploring in Kyoto, and that episode was with Phil Jackson. And this is from K80, who said, "The train was not nearly as distracting as you would expect. I have no idea what editing magic you pulled, but it was really pleasant and immersive to listen to." Oh, thank you so much, K80. If you listened to the Paranormal Exploring in Kyoto episode, you know that Phil Jackson and I were on location visiting some supernatural and haunted sites in Kyoto Prefecture, and we were standing by a train track that was apparently a haunted train crossing when a train went by, and I commented I made an apology for the sound, but I tell you what happened there. It was the magic of the DJI Mic Mini. That's what both Phil and I were wearing, and that seemed to mute out the sound of the train in the background. So thank you for that wonderful comment. Now, another comment from the Wednesday Strangler episode, and this one is from Natalie. "Such a sad story. The lack of justice from for the families is heartbreaking. It's so fascinating, though, how the folklore and urban legend grow from such tragedies, and I love the idea of low-flame folk ghost lore." Well, thank you so much, Natalie. And I really like the idea of the concept of low-flame ghost lore as well. There was a lot of that around the windy ocean road where I used to live in Penang, Malaysia. Lots of ghost lore around it because of the World War II deaths and the frequent traffic-related deaths over the years in that area. It wasn't something that people openly talked about, yet something everyone sort of acknowledged. The road, the windy ocean road that connected my neighborhood to the rest of the island, was haunted. And again, not something a lot of people talked about, but if you ever inquired, they would tell you stories. Absolutely. So, all you amazing folks out there, I'm recording this right now on the 21st of March, and it will be released a few days later. I'm usually much more ahead of the game with my recording. But if you follow me on social media, you will know that I was basically out for the count for nearly 2 weeks of this month of March. I was in a hospital here in China, and it was a very stressful situation. I was admitted for what we thought would be a simple surgical routine, just repairing an old sports injury, but things weren't as routine as planned. And I ended up spending quite a bit more time in the hospital than I expected. And it was quite the experience. So to learn more about that, and if you want to learn more about my life as an expat, and a creative here in Asia, please subscribe to my Tales from Kevin podcast, wherever you're listening to this show. That's kind of a diary style podcast where I just talk about my life, not so much the supernatural, just about me living as an expat in Asia. So go check that out. Now, folks, there are premium memberships now available with loads of exclusive content over on Patreon. I'd love to see some of you folks come on over there. If you love Supernatural Japan, you're really going to love this. There are lots of extra content and podcasts that only Patreon members can access. Now, of course, you can also support the show with a one-time donation on Buy Me a Coffee, and there's a link to that in the show notes as well, also on the website. And I really want to thank Michael for supporting Supernatural Japan over on Buy Me a Coffee. He gave a generous donation and said, this was a comment he left over on Buy Me a Coffee, "I really enjoy Supernatural Japan. It is an exceptional podcast and my go-to for listening when I'm driving. Kevin does an exceptional job and keeps the show fresh. Happy 100th episode." Well, thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. And you can support the podcast and help keep the lights on here in this spooky house by supporting, just like Michael, on Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. And that's it for this episode of Supernatural Japan. I'm Kevin O'Shea, and I really want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen. And remember, if you ever find yourself on an abandoned island for exiles in Japan, when you hear a noise over your shoulder, you're probably not alone. You may just have company, but that company might not still be alive.
The UPS Store is making packing and shipping Easter gifts quicker than ever this year with UPS Air. How quick? Quicker than a walk around the park. Quicker than eating all the Easter candies. Quicker than finding a golden egg that you know is stuffed with cash. When you ship UPS Air at the UPS Store, your items arrive on time or your money back. Guaranteed at no extra cost. Exclusively at the UPS Store US retail locations. Send Easter joy on time at the UPS Store. Visit the upsstore.com/air guarantee for full details. Terms and conditions apply.